And if you have a mortgage, a vehicle loan, or perhaps have investments, this conversation is exactly for you. In an economy such as South Africa, what is the role of an economic forecaster with the South African Reserve Bank, and why is the Reserve Bank so crucial in safeguarding monetary policy? Most importantly, what has been the role of women in this sector? To help us answer some of these questions is Pamela Mjandana. She is lead economist at the South African Reserve Bank, joining me in studio today. Very good morning to you. This conversation, long in the making. We've been wanting to have this for a very long time. Good to have you in studio. Let's start with the role of a forecaster. What does that person do at the Reserve Bank?
Thanks, Polly, for having me. We start very early as a forecaster. As you know, we prepare for the MPC, which is the Monetary Policy Committee. So we start by assessing what the economy looks like. So we assess the global economy and the domestic economy. And then we take that, we use that information in our models. So we have what we call our macroeconomic models that we use to kind of gauge what is going to happen in future. So we look into the future. I can say we kind of look into the crystal ball and see what's going to happen in 2 to 3 years' time, and then we advise the monetary policy.
So you're one of those people who, when the interest rates decisions are made, you are a key cog in that decision-making. And apparently you've been in this role for a very long time.
Yes.
Were you the only woman at the time that you were serving in this unit? Because you are in a completely different role. We'll talk about that in a moment. But talk to us about just how many women served in this particular role.
Okay, so I was the head of the forecasting unit.
Wow. And
I've been in the forecasting unit for years, and I've moved through the ranks in there. There were some women before me. There was a woman before me, and she had retired. That's a long time ago, around 2016, if I'm not mistaken. And then there are some women who are working with me there, very powerful women, young women who are very ambitious. So I just was there to lead them. But the big work and the great work is done by those women and some guys, obviously.
Let me put a tricky question to you, which has plagued the public domain for a very long time, and that is the monetary policy environment, and in particular, inflation targeting. You would have heard politicians, whether it's trade unionists, banging on about this for months, if not years. What is the role of the Reserve Bank, and why is it so important, this whole matter around inflation targeting? In simple language.
In simple language, so South Africa is a very small, open economy, and it is an emerging market. So within an emerging market, obviously, there's advanced economies that are much more advanced than us, and then we're prone to shocks. Most of them are supply shocks, such as oil prices and food prices. And we're also prone to demand pressures. So the MPC, the monetary policy, is there to make sure that these shocks don't filter through the economy and erode the money that we use, the purchasing power of our currency. So as we say in our mandate, that we are there to protect the value of our currency, which means that as inflation goes up, money is eroded, your income is eroded. As you know, when you go out there, you buy a basket of goods, and those basket of goods, when you go back in a year or so, or 3 months' time, they are not the same amount of money that you have been paying for. Why? Because inflation has come up. So it erodes some of your income. And therefore, the bank is there directly for that, to make sure that the poor on the street are able to afford the basic things that are supposed to be their livelihood. So they do have an impact in the social, in the lives of the people. And therefore, that's why the bank makes sure that inflation is maintained lower, and it's targeting the midpoint of the target, which is a 4.5 target, which is between 3 and 6%, mainly for the person who has a fixed income, like your grandmother, who gets a grant, and then that grant is fixed for a year. And if the pressures come through, like food and transport costs, that money gets little and little as inflation goes higher. Yeah. So we are there to target that inflation so that we benefit, the people would benefit from that.
Such a very important conversation at this time, given the global sentiment around inflation. Do you think South Africa can weather this storm?
I think South Africa is in a good place to weather the storm. We went into the COVID having the buffers that we had. We had a very resilient financial system, and we went out of it very nicely out of it with grace. Yes, we did lose some other concepts, things that were important to us, such as employment and growth, but we did weather the storm. And going into this crisis that we see with the Russia-Ukraine war, we're likely to also come through this very well. With the institutions that we have, I think we have the right tools to fight whatever is coming our way.
The filtering through into the world of finances and filtering of women leaders. It's hard to come by, but people like yourself do exist. You are one of those trailblazers, if I could use the term. What does it take to get to where you are right now? If you were to advise a student who's coming up the ranks and is interested to be in the same position, what would you say?
You talk to some of the passion that I have in terms of my career. I've met a lot of young women and young men who want to be where I am. And the only thing I can advise is work hard, focus on the work, and then when given the opportunity, don't play with that opportunity. Grab it with both hands. And if there are walls that are being built, you break those walls. You work hard. So you go to university, you do your degree, you do your postgrad in economics. And what I really liked in my work is the econometrics part, where you build models. This is a very interesting part of my job because you get to know the linkages in the economy. You're not just focused in one area of the economy, you focus in the whole economy, both domestic and the global economy. So my advice is to get to grips with your economics and go out there and grab the opportunities.
Pamela Mjandana, I'm so sad that this is the only time we have for this conversation. There was lots to talk about, but hopefully I can get you back some other time.
Yes, anytime.
Head of the Global and Domestic Analysis Unit at the South African Reserve Bank. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kylie, for having me.
Your time.